now.
Yeah, I look into the camera.
That might be good. Oh, we're editing that out. We
Thumbnail,
gotta.
thumbnail,
Oh,
thumbnail.
no Alan Webb in the thumbnail. That's crazy.
No, we got the picture.
Okay. We have to. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of the Maple Mile Podcast. I'm Isaiah Bider,
I'm Jesse Bontrager.
and today we have a very special guest. His name happens to be Alan Webb. He was the high school world record mile holder with a 3:53, and then he originally held the American mile record, which was 3:46. Before that was broken by Yardna Goose. And yeah, we're very excited for him to be on this episode. And yeah, let's get into it.
Let's go. Yeah.
Jump into it. Thank you so much for doing this, first
Yeah,
of all.
for sure.
Yeah, no problem, guys. No problem.
Yeah.
You guys have practice today, or what? You guys
At 4. We have practice at 4.
Yeah.
4? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll keep it nice and tight, so you conserve your energy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could jump
So,
into it.
Yeah. We can talk training.
Yeah. Starting off with training status. Yeah.
Do we first or?
We can have Alan go first.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have any training updates for yourself or anything.
Yeah.
Training updates for me. My training is basically nothing.
Okay. We thought we'd throw it out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Training is like, let's see, like 1 to 3 miles a day. So I'm probably hitting like maybe 15 miles a week, something like that.
That's
Which
still
is,
mileage. That's still mileage.
Yeah. I guess it's just enough to be able to call it mileage, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm in a different stage of life here than you guys. So
Okay.
I'm coaching, dadding, husbanding. That's
Yeah.
enough, man. That's
Yeah.
that's a lot, actually. That's actually high mileage if you once you get into
Oh yeah.
that zone, man. It still feels like I'm doing like 100 miles a week, just
Yeah. Oh yeah.
other stuff that
Yeah.
No, I bet.
I mean, you're like spending your energy in a lot of different ways instead.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
I
want
guess-
to start off, you can talk about your training first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had like an Achilles injury for like 3 weeks. And so this is my first week like fully back. And so it's been nice to just like hit mileage again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would say we did a progressive yesterday, and that felt good to just go through the gears again. So
Mhm. Yeah.
about you?
For me, first week of tapering right now. We have conference this upcoming weekend. So pretty much a lot of the base work's in and speed work. So now it's just fine tuning, getting ready. So
Mhm.
not too much stuff.
Yeah.
All right. First question for Alan.
Yeah. My thing refreshed, so I need to scroll down. All right.
All right. So first question for you is, what got you into running in the first place?
The biggest thing that got me into running was the gym class mile. We used to run. We had to run a mile in gym class. They changed it to like the dot test or something. You had to like run back and forth in the gym,
Oh yeah.
which, in my opinion, I think is not as good. But I guess I'm old school. So yeah, I mean the mile in gym. We had to run a mile starting in the 4th grade, and I. That's how I just started, like, recording my progress, but I didn't like formally train. I was I played soccer, and I did swimming. So I had a lot of, like, I would call, like, hidden training in there, and but it wasn't until high school that I joined the cross country team, because I was pretty good at just a little gym class mile, my elementary school record that they kept track of, and
Yeah.
it's probably like 3:58 by now. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. So, but it wasn't until high school that I like started to formally train. And that's the short version, man. I just, like, as soon as I could run in a formal setting, sign me up, cross country, let's see where this thing's gonna go, and and uh, I just progressed from there. I improved pretty very quickly just because I did a lot of aerobic training in the pool. I was even doing like doubles and double 2 days.
Hmm.
When I was in the eighth grade, seventh and eighth grade. So I would say I was experienced with the aerobic side, and I would say I was fast enough.
Okay.
Fast
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
I was not the fastest guy, but I turned out I became a miler, which was I'm fast, but not the fastest guy.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were so you mentioned you played soccer? Is that what,
Yeah, played
uh,
soccer. Yeah.
were you a midfielder or?
I, I was actually I did a little midfield, but my actually, believe it or not, my best position that I played the most was defense.
Oh yeah.
I was like a center. I was like I played center defense like when I was on my best, like when I was like at the highest competitiveness. Um, but I was like a sneaky, like uh sort of like a midfield back guy that like I would cheat up real high,
Yeah.
Hmm.
because if I had to like sprint back as fast as I possibly could, like the whole way of the field, like if I just teased a little bit on offense, just like a little bit, I wouldn't get tired, because if I had to sprint for like 70 meters as hard as I could to,
Yeah.
to catch some guy, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fast forwarding now to pretty much end of high school, going into college. After you broke the high school mile record, which was 3:53. Um, and when you were in the recruitment process, what made you choose Michigan specifically?
Well, first of all, I had already committed to Michigan before that happened.
Oh, before the record.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Gotcha.
that was in May of my senior year, so I had committed to Michigan in
Oh,
November
before. Yeah.
that of
Yeah.
before that. So I was already on my way. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
Really my whole childhood, and most of my early adult life was there. However, I was actually born. I was born in Ann Arbor, and my dad is a professor at U of M. So I grew. We still kind of grew up as U of M sports fans,
Yeah.
um, and so and Michigan had been a pretty they weren't winning national titles as a team, but they were well known for being like a sort of middle distance program.
Yeah.
Kevin Sullivan obviously just had tremendous success there, among others too. But Kevin was sort of the most notable, and Ron, recruited me, and so I wanted to be at a place where that fit for me. Not that I didn't want to win, like be on a winning team or anything.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be where I felt like I was I fit in just right. So I mean, you tell me. It's like, I was born in Ann Arbor. A coach who's like specialty is middle distance running. Uh,
Perfect. Yeah.
if the
Yeah.
shoe fits,
Yeah.
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 right? So yeah, and I still talk to Ron here and there. Whenever I go back to Michigan, I'm always texting Ron. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go to the
Yeah.
next question.
Yeah. So during college, how's like balancing school and social and the athletic life at Michigan?
um, it it, uh, it can be tough. I would say that that was probably one of the things I didn't do very well. Um, and it, I would say that when I talk to like all the freshmen, or even throughout that first year, even for kids that are like local, that might even that live really close to the campus, that first year is such a big transition that people underestimate, going from high school to college, because the biggest move that you can make is just being out of your parents'
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
It's such a massive move. You could move next door and it would be the biggest move ever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, and then you couple in all the other things, all the distractions, all the temptations, all that stuff. You wrap it all together, and it's like, whoa, there's so much going on. Not to mention, like from a training perspective, most you're changing coaches, you're changing teammates. Everything is new. The racing schedule is different. You're like at the bottom of the barrel again,
Yeah.
even if you're good, you go in and you're like, well, now I'm not good again, like
Yeah.
so there's so many transitions there. Um uh that I did okay in some categories and not okay in others. I think probably the biggest thing that I didn't do very well is I didn't really handle that transition from being like really, really good at the high school level and just being another guy that's good, but you ain't gonna win like you did when you were at the high school level, right? And you can't underestimate the psychological aspect of that, right? You
Sure.
get super motivated, you get all those positive reinforcements of like, hey man, you go out there, you run a race, even if you don't PR, you might win anyway if you're
Mhm.
really good,
Right.
um, or be towards the front of the race.
Yeah.
You go if you're a 1540 guy in some places, man, you're gonna crush people, right? But then you come even in the NAIA here, man, you run the equivalent of a 1540, 1550
You're still getting,
in a lot
yeah.
of conferences. I mean, like, dude, Goshen, you guys, you run, 26:10,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you'd be in the trees,
Right. Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
In our conference, you'll be further up there, but man, I look around like, and that's tough, man. You go,
Oh yeah.
do all that hard work, and you're like, wait, I thought I was doing good. Like that
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
110th, like.
Right.
Whereas like a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of places you run 1530, 1540, 1550, you're gonna be like, winning or top 10 or something
Yeah.
like that. And you'd be like, that's pretty good, like I'm contributing, our team might win
Yeah.
the district meet or whatnot, So
Yeah.
that psychological aspect is huge, 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 huge. That like I said, I really didn't do that. I didn't do well in that category. I mean, was awful, but it was still something that I struggled with a lot
Right.
that first year. So that's my whole like freshman year transition speech is you got to take all those things into consideration
Yeah.
when you're coming from the high school to the college level.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to read the next one?
Yeah. Where are we at?
The pro.
Oh yeah. All right. So in your transition to becoming pro, what made you choose Nike? As well as what did the contract look like?
Well, I mean, professional contract. I mean, part of is most of it's the financial part,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I actually I don't want to get into too much into like the X's and O's of
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
contract.
Yeah.
But there was other things, I was being courted by other companies.
Yeah.
Um, but I just, I knew some of the Nike guys that worked in sports marketing before I signed that contract. So that helped a lot. I felt pretty comfortable with them. I really felt like they cared a lot, and I think when Nike does it well, they do it very, very well.
Mhm.
They have a genuine desire to want to help you, to support track and field. And I felt that at that time, I felt like they really cared about supporting me to have the best career possible. So yeah, it was you know, that was a young kid signing a pro contract. Pretty
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
No, for sure. Like
Yeah.
that's only after your freshman year, right? You
It
sign
it was
on.
after my freshman year. Yep.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So as being a professional runner, like yes, you have to run like 1, 2 times a day, but what else would you do during your days as a pro runner?
Yeah, I mean, I I I did. still went to school. I went part-time. I went to George Mason for like kind of the middle part of my college, and then I ended up finishing at Portland State. So I chipped away like really slowly at my degree, but I did eventually finish it. Praise the Lord. uh,
Yeah.
so I think that actually was if you look back at my career, like my best seasons were the ones when I was taking one class, like
Yeah. Yeah.
just enough
Yeah.
where I wasn't super tired from like being stressed out from having like a billion papers to write. Um, but not zero where I had something else going on where I
Yeah.
wasn't just like running and then thinking about
The next run.
running.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like looking back now I really believe that like you guys at the college level, you can use that to your advantage. You can use that as what I'll call your mental training, which is not thinking about running.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Get away from it, recover from it, because that's such a big part of running is the recovery aspect of it. And that part I did a pretty good job. Like I rested a lot and I took it seriously. Like I almost got it like office hours where I would be like, I'm gonna sit around and rest.
Yeah.
Like I really didn't do like a lot. I didn't like do a ton of activities. I wasn't like running around town doing a ton of stuff. Like I said, I would take when I did my best, I had one class that I took. Um and you know, it got me out a little bit, but not too much where I'm like real tired. But the recovery aspect is critical. It's really critical.
Yeah.
That gets into the whole, you know, the collegiate side, which is really tough. I get it. You know, I'm a college coach. You know, I wasn't born yesterday. I know that there's plenty of temptations out there. So it's your choice. You can
Right.
choose. And uh, a coach wiser than me said it's pick two.
Yeah.
You can pick two, and there's three things to pick from.
Yeah.
The academics, you can be great at academics. You can be successful at academics. You can be successful at sports, or you can be successful at being a socialite.
Yeah.
Academics is non-negotiable. You have to do that. So that leaves two things. And
Yeah.
you can only pick one of the two.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And test me. Test me and prove me wrong. Because you won't. You'll lose. You'll lose. Because I didn't make this thing up. Some other super smart dude
Yeah.
figure that out. You only get to choose one of those two things. You can be
Yeah.
Mhm.
some super socialite and have some fantastic social whatever,
Yeah.
or you can be a great athlete.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The great athletes chose one of those two and they cut out the other ones.
Yeah.
They cut out the other one. That's it because you can't, or you'll fail out, or you'll get terrible grades.
Right. Which just backfires in the
Yeah,
long
it's
run
just
Yeah,
kinda
anyways.
like
then you
lose,
can't
lose,
even
lose.
compete anyway.
Right.
You can't
Yeah.
compete. You can't compete.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like some people go to college and some people go to dorms, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm there for the dorm life and other stuff. You know,
Yeah.
don't go to college for to actually go to class
Yeah.
and learn the stuff, learn the things that you're
Yeah.
supposed to do, and then you can have running as your choose running as like the social outlet because it is. I mean, dude, look at you two, like your buddies right now, like you're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
like I mean,
Yeah.
make it fun, you know, like the
Yeah.
bus rides, all that stuff. Like that's the social hour, man. Like realize what you're doing. Be like, I'm hanging out with my friends
Yeah.
and doing the sport. Like that's it. Like you're not going to find it better anywhere else. So like
Right. Yeah.
enjoy that part of it. Enjoy
For
it
sure.
because that's what I had. Like so many good memories of like whatever, you know, like you get to eat pizza or whatever, you know, like you know,
Yeah.
having dinner with
Yeah.
it's like having dinner with your friends, and like most of the time the school's paying for it. So like
Right. Enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it was like going to Great Lakes and
Yeah.
maybe meeting like like professional runners or
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and you never know, you can meet some cool people along the way.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, like you have good friends. I mean, I met like your coach, like Rustin. I see Rustin in there. So like, you
Yeah.
know, whenever we go to meets, I can like talk to other coaches and like whatever, you know, I don't know what we talk about, but
Coaching
running
stuff.
stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
So
Speaking of that,
yeah, during your pro career, what was like do you have a pre-race routine that you do or like a special song you listen to or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I had my warm up. I had my warm up routine. I had it down pretty tight. I don't give that to our athletes because it was a lot. It was probably too much. But I had my routine, and my coach and I kind of like we figured it. We figured out what worked for me, and I stuck to it pretty tight. Assuming that the meet was, normal. Like sometimes the call rooms are a little different. You might have to call little audibles and stuff like that. That's why,
Mhm.
um, you guys like as athletes, you got to kind of have your routine, but then kind of be smart enough to know why you're doing it, and then be able to adjust it based on whatever, delays. Obviously we're in track right now, so like you get there and you're like, oh well, it's like a rolling schedule. Like, the 3K is at 4 o'clock, but when
Right.
do we warm up, coach? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
let's just take have a theory of when it's going to be and do that, but you got to adjust it there. So I was, you had to can be too rigid with it. And I did have my little music routine, but it actually changed. It changed a little bit. I wasn't always listening to the same thing, but I had my go-tos. I had my go-to favorites.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I listened to when I was in high school. I listened to Everclear. I was like a alternative rock uh
Yeah.
Mhm.
guy.
That's
So
good for pre-race. I mean,
yeah, it
yeah.
was good pre-race,
Yeah.
pre-race music. And so yeah. So yeah, and then I would always try to time my like when I would listen to the right
Yeah.
songs at the right
Yeah.
time to kind of get my uh,
Yeah.
pumped up self pumped up right at the right time.
Right, right.
Mhm.
That's something I learned too is, you can't listen to music too many hours out or else you're gonna waste all your energy. And then by the time you get to the
Exactly.
race,
Yeah. Yeah. You want to
yeah.
have like super real chill,
Right, right. And
chill out
then
music, like something to
yeah,
relax, like chill, and
yeah.
then the real strong coffee music,
Yes,
right
The
like
exactly.
coffee music. Yeah.
right at the right time.
Yeah.
Hit the right time.
Yeah. Um, talk about rivalries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So during your pro career, who was the guy you liked racing against the most?
Uh, I mean, I had a lot of guys that I liked racing against. I mean, um, I mean, high school, I had to race against Dathan and Ryan, at least in cross country. Um, those guys, I think those guys pushed me a lot, even though they were distance guys. I think it helped me so much I basically had to chase those guys in like the
Yeah.
strength stuff. And so, it helped me a lot when it came to track, because, even though, like I said, Ryan and Dathan were a little more strength, um, it helped me improve in that. So,
Yeah.
all the training I did to try to beat Dathan, even though I didn't, I tried and I
Yeah.
trained real hard to do it. And so I think that pushed me to the next level. So in high school, I would say, like definitely Dathan and Ryan and Dathan. But then later, I mean, there were so many guys. I mean, like Legat, obviously, I had to chase him around a lot, and I beat him occasionally, not a
Yeah.
lot. He definitely beat me more than I beat him. But I held my own against him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got him a couple times. And then Leo, who was a little younger than me, but I still, he was still right there. Chris Lukezic, I trained with him, and then I mentioned Kevin, and he wasn't an American, but I still had to race him. Nick Willis,
Yeah.
um, Rob Myers, my roommate Nate Brennan at Michigan. These were all guys that I had to go up against. Uh, and then I'm trying to think of some other guys that I saw a lot. Kipchirchir, Daniel Kipchirchir. Uh, I'm probably forgetting some guys. I
Yeah.
mean, I really always appreciated my competitors because they pushed me to be better. I wouldn't, any success that I had, I owe them a debt of gratitude because I had to either lose to them and try to beat them, and run fast, or if I did end up beating them, then they obviously pushed me to do it,
Yeah.
I'm just grateful for all those guys, and I'm friends with I'm still friends with a lot of them. So I mean, no, talk to them all the time, but here and there, Dathan and I, like, occasionally a little bit, even Ryan too, and yeah, you never know when you're gonna bump into these guys later. Yeah, I try to appreciate those guys, and so like I said, they pushed me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so when I was doing some research on, like, I was trying to look at rivalries and stuff, and I came across a video with a couple million views. And it was like the biggest embarrassment in like a race or something like that, and it was you against Michael Stember.
Oh no.
So what exactly went down? And
That made me a little bit. Well, I wasn't thinking about Michael, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, he did kind of like ruffle my feathers a little bit in the semi, because he was kind of being a little bit unsportsmanlike, I would say, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Uh,
Mhm.
we ran the semifinal at the trials, and he's like veering off into
Yeah.
lane
Yeah.
5 in the semi, which I'll just say I took note of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I took
Definitely.
note of that. It was like, okay, interesting. Uh, he must be feeling really good.
Yeah.
But I still went into that race. I wasn't thinking about Michael Stemmer. I was not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh, um, uh, Guys, can you like pause for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about Michael going into
Yeah.
the final. Uh, I mean, I would say that I tried my best to um, to respect all of my competitors. So I wasn't, that race had a lot of good people in it, and so I wasn't taking for granted really anybody. Um, Michael was definitely somebody on the list. I mean, he made the
Yeah.
final,
Yeah.
he won the
Of course.
semi, so he obviously, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, he must be feeling really good. Like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
better not be going easy,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but he wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only one in that race. And I mentioned Lukezic, Rob Myers was in that race, and then and Charlie Gruber. Charlie Gruber was ended up being second that day. So I just was like, hey man, we just gotta. If I'm gonna have a chance at this thing, I gotta bring my A game.
Yeah.
I gotta bring my
All you
A
can do.
game.
Yeah.
And whoever comes, let's go. That
Yeah.
was sort of my mentality. Like, I don't know who it's gonna be. I don't know who's gonna be feeling good on that day, but I can only control myself, right? And I can't focus too much on that. And I had a great day. I would say that's one of my best races of my whole life, was that day. Super special day for me. So, um, yeah, that was a tough day for Michael.
Yeah.
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 But
Well, um,
I'll do the mental trick. Yeah.
yeah.
So this is probably my favorite question. Do you have any special mental tricks you did when a race when it starts to hurt or doesn't go as planned, or in your head you thought, okay, I'm really fit, this race should feel really good, and then it feels not so good. Did you have any mental tricks to keep yourself kind of in it, or kind of come back, if that makes sense?
yeah, I think you know when I did it well, I think that the best uh, way to conquer that is isn't waiting until the race starts. Like, to be able to beat that, you can't wait until the race begins to be making those choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you have to make you have to make the decision before the race starts. Because if you're like wavering, and the race goes off, and like you don't feel like super awesome,
Yeah.
man, that's when the battle is a super tough battle.
Yeah.
That's where it's hard.
Yeah.
So for example, like that Olympic trials final, I already assumed that the race was going to be a battle to the bitter, bitter end,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I did. I mean, I did end up winning by a decent amount. I think, but I wasn't assuming that. I didn't assume that until I crossed the finish line. I mean, I was far ahead, but I'm like, they're coming, they're
Yeah.
coming, they are coming like a freight train.
Yeah.
They didn't catch me, but they didn't catch me all the way. But actually, Charlie was reeling me in a little bit.
Yeah.
He was
Mhm.
reeling me in.
He was trying. That's
He
I mean
was trying. He
yeah.
was trying. I mean,
Yeah.
I put enough between us
Hmm.
so that it was too much for him to conquer. But his last 200 was probably faster than mine,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But if I had gone out there and I put that big lead in, then it was like, oh, like doing my victory dance too early. Hey, man, I don't
Right.
know. You don't know. You
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't want to be that guy where they come and catch you. So
That,
I felt like the mental part has to be, you have to prepare for that before the gun goes off. Make the decision before it goes off. Before it goes off. Because if you're out there in a boxing match and you're just out there not protecting yourself and somebody swings a punch and lands that punch in your head, you're gonna get knocked out in the first punch, man. It's gonna hurt so bad. But but you're stepping into the ring. You have to be like, all right,
Mhm.
I'm stepping into this ring and somebody's gonna try to punch my head. What are you gonna
Yes.
do? If they're gonna
Yeah.
punch your head, you go like that. Yeah, it's
Right.
still gonna hit you, but it might not hurt quite as bad, right? And you might have a chance to like dance around and hit them back some, right? So you have to make that decision beforehand. And to be
Yeah.
honest, I would do that usually like about a week out. It would start to get heavy. Be like, okay,
Yeah.
let's start putting that cap on.
Yeah.
Being
Mhm.
like, I'm going to be prepared to be fighting every single step of the way. Don't underestimate your competitors because you never know who's going to feel good. And if you don't feel good, you have to uh, be able to work through that. And if you're
Yeah.
not ready to work through that discomfort, then get out of the kitchen.
Right.
You
There's
can't
yeah.
stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen. I mean, that's part of what it is. And
Yeah.
uh, um, it's realizing that like the discomfort part of it. I called it like it's just like kind of your indicator of your gas tank, right? You have a certain amount of gas in the tank, right? And like, yeah, you don't be reckless and like just start running to make it hurt just because to make it hurt, like,
Right.
yeah, you want to be tough, but you want to be smart too. So like you got to manage that. And like the discomfort part is just kind of like recognizing when you should be going hard, like really, really hard, and when you shouldn't. And like and just and each event is different. Like I mean, a mile is about 4 minutes long, so how bad should you be hurting after the first lap, after the second lap, after the third lap? Like what
Right.
should that feel like so
Yeah.
that you get the gas tank the gas tank is empty right at the finish line, right? You
Yeah.
want
And
assuming you're running like your super PR, perfect race, whatever. And so managing that gas tank is sort of like managing discomfort, but you can't assume that you're just gonna like breeze through and you're gonna kick them all down in the last 200 because you feel like awesome. You're on a little threshold run, right?
right. Yeah.
Right. Like I was sort of like assumed it was going to feel like death. And then if it felt great, well, that's good too. But
Then
like,
yeah. Yeah.
so it's before the race, but you have to make that decision before the race starts, before it starts, or else you're digging yourself in a hole that you have to dig yourself out of.
For sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So after your pro running career, um how was the transition to being a triathlete? And what's something that like you kind of learned through cross training that runners that only would just kind of do running wouldn't necessarily know about?
The cross training side. Well,
Mm.
number one, I did cross training as a runner. I still did it.
Oh, okay.
I actually did very well when I did cross training. In fact, looking back, I wish I did it more.
Yeah.
I wish I had that as my sort of more staple. Um, uh, and the triathlon thing was just something that I kind of just I felt like I owed it to myself to at least give it a shot. I ultimately still wasn't a good enough swimmer. It kind of haunted me. I really wanted to be a great swimmer when I was growing up. and I wasn't really good enough to compete at the highest level um, as a swimmer. And then even as a triathlete, I just wasn't quite good enough. I was good. I wasn't bad. I wasn't a bad swimmer, but those guys at the Olympic level, I mean, those guys are just they have no weaknesses,
Yeah.
right? They're good at all three of them. They're sort of sub Olympic level, like just under Olympic level in all three of them.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
So, um, I learned that, but I can rest being like, yeah, I gave it a shot.
Right.
I gave it a shot, and it just I wasn't quite, I wasn't quite good enough. But yeah, I still learned even more just kind of about swimming and cycling and swimming and cycling and then endurance, like what I would call true endurance racing. Really more like marathon length stuff, fueling stuff like that, which really you don't have to really deal with that much, or at least not to the fine points that you would as being like a middle distance guy. The fueling part of it isn't quite as doesn't need to be quite as fine tuned because the fueling is kind of like in between little segments of workouts. Like even though they last a long time, there's a lot of this like like not standing around, but if you're doing like a warm up before a workout, that takes 45 minutes, you're stopping, you're tying your shoes, you can get water.
Right.
So there can be a fueling aspect to it. If you're doing like a session that takes 2 hours long, you do need to be cognizant of that. But it's not the same when you're doing a 2 hour race where there's no break. It's like you're
Yeah.
going full on. You need that energy like right away, just like a marathon. That part, I became a little more acutely aware of that. Just because and it was good for me. I never really went to the roads fully, as a runner. I didn't really run a half or a marathon. So I think it was good for me to kind of go through that. And yeah, like I said, I learned a little more about little bit more about swimming technique, cycling,
Yeah.
those things. So it was awesome. It was a great experience for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna move on to your coaching career. And this actually, I was talking with Rustin at lunch today. I was like, "You have any questions?" He's like, "You should talk about the experience between like the NCAA and NAIA, like the differences between that." Um, so
Okay.
yeah.
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 Um, uh, there are obviously differences. I think that in the NAIA, there's like more of a range of abilities. Um, at least I'm sure you guys see on your team like um uh it's a wider range. Like you can have some really N NCAA D1 level people,
Yeah.
and then guys and girls on the team that they might not even have thought they had an opportunity to run in college. They were like, I don't think is there really a spot for me? And they're like, oh, whoa, there actually is.
Right. Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the dynamic can be a little different, it is different, but I think it's a good environment for even for the higher level people because it gives you a good perspective, as a coach, it forces you to focus on getting the athlete to just be better.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at least that's my philosophy. I don't know what other coaches do, but
Yeah.
I know that's what I try to do. I say, like, everybody can contribute to this team, to the team, if they're genuinely giving their best effort, both on the course or the track and off of the track. And if you create that culture, well, then your top guys are going to perform, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe maybe the guys that are last, they're not going to win the race, but what does winning mean? I talk about that a lot. Like, what is winning mean? Like, are you getting better? Are you putting your best effort in improving in your running? If the answer is yes, well, that's the true winner, right? Because running isn't a zero sum game. I talk about that a lot, or I try to talk about that. It's not a zero sum. If the whole point of the sport was the person that crossed the finish line first was the only person that like gets a reward from that. Well, then we'd all like let's just quit,
Right.
like
Yeah.
like then we're not doing anything really. But if we're teaching ourselves, the virtues that you can gain from the sport of running, well, then everybody can win. And if you have that on your team, then it's really positive thing. So I think that sometimes when you go to the higher level, like the NCAA Division One, even the difference between Division One Power Four, I think that can sometimes get a little bit lost. Not all the time. I'm not trying to say that it's everybody does it,
Yeah.
but it can be tempting to get lost because you might have a guy or somebody that kind of just gets on a team that can get really discouraged if they're not like winning a race or something like that, or even qualifying for like an NCAA championship or something like that. So the difference is in having that range of abilities is probably the biggest thing, and just trying to keep those things in perspective, and yeah, I mean I've seen a lot of things on both sides, and I'll just say I've really enjoyed being in the NAIA. Um, for that reason, I've also made some pretty good friends already. Your coach included. He's a great guy, and I enjoy getting out there. And uh, the I'd say the one biggest positive is for that reason. I think that in my experience, the coaches have at least they have a great sort of balance between being competitive. Like I know your coach. I know Russ wants to win.
Yeah.
And I want to win too. But like, hey man, let's keep it in perspective here, guys. Like
Right.
if he's gonna win, I'm gonna go shake his hand and be like, "Oh man, good job, man. You got me. You got me." And like like
Yeah.
you guys won. But
Yeah.
we're all trying to get the best out of ourselves. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I love that. That's just been like just a big pleasure for me to be part of an environment like that. So um uh yeah, so
Yeah.
that was totally a long answer, but yeah.
No, it was a
That's
great
good.
answer. It was a great
Yeah,
answer. Yeah.
yeah. I guess this can be like our last one, but
Yeah.
the nerves
Which,
one.
yeah. So our last final question for you. It's so when it gets to races, it's race day. How do the nerves when coaching athletes compare to when you were individually racing?
That's a really good question. I think the nerves, being a coach and an athlete, it's not, the anxiety is definitely much lower as a coach, at least for me.
Yeah.
Um, and but it's not zero. I still get a little nervous. I
Yeah, of course.
still
Yeah.
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 still have that.
Yeah.
But I've feel like that's something that I've tried to consciously improve on.
Yeah.
Um, is I'll go back to saying keeping things in perspective, right?
Yeah.
Um, and as you know, as my experience as a coach has grown, um, that sort of anxiety is it's gotten even more even keeled,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and um, and I've I can look back to those times as an athlete when I felt like that got out of hand, and I can kind of draw on that to hopefully, my goal would be to sort of pass on the good parts to the athletes, where
Yeah.
you know uh, I want them to compete and to try their best, but I hope to kind of pass along the right perspective in my actions. Be like, hey, like, oh, we're at this meet. This is gonna be awesome. But I'm not gonna be like, oh, like
Yeah. Yeah.
scared or something like that.
Right.
Get out there and be like, hey, let's have some fun. Let's do this. Let's try our best. Um, and you're either gonna win or you're gonna learn. So I think that uh, I'm trying my best to sort of learn from all those experiences. But I'd say it's the nerves aren't as bad when you're the coach. And I think that the reason why is that you have more opportunities to kind of practice that,
For sure.
right? Because you might have a bunch of athletes, let's say on the track. I mean, the coach is out there like kind of watching everything. So like you're like sort of competing in like every single event that's going on,
Yeah.
at least you have athletes in.
Yeah.
So you know your portfolio is more diversified.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. I think
I think that's it. Like,
Yeah, that was
thanks so
it.
much for the interview.
yeah, this was
You're welcome.
Yeah,
You're
this was
welcome.
great. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, God bless you guys. You know, you guys have your conference meet this weekend. Are you guys doing for indoor?
For indoor, yeah.
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 Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Isaiah will be competing, but
Yeah.
you say where's it at?
Yeah. Where is it?
It's
Taylor?
Taylor University in
Taylor.
Indiana.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Jesse, you said you had a little Achilles thing. You're not gonna go or what?
So I was gonna be in the 5K like a couple days ago, but I don't know, it was just a little bit soon for putting in spikes and stuff.
Yeah.
I've only been like truly healthy for like 5 days or so, like with no
Okay.
pain. So
Okay.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
a little early.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's okay. It's all good, man. It's
Yeah.
outdoor.
Yeah.
No,
You know,
I'm just happy.
Exactly.
I'm just happy that I can like run with the pack again and
you're happy to be
yeah,
out
get
there.
good workouts done. So.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
be grateful, dude. Be grateful. You know,
Yeah.
I've been there, man. Achilles is one of my Achilles heels. So
Oh yeah. There you go.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but I think that's it. So
cool, guys.
thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks
Have a-
again.
I'm sure I'll see you around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
You too. Bye.